Okay. Hello, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to Thriving Beyond the Label community. Today, we have a special guest of honor. She will be taking us through her journey as a parent. We will be discussing how to navigate transitions and a lot more about her community work and her experience of raising her children. We have Mrs. Ibukun Adelakun. She is the author of My First Love book. She is a community champion. She is the founder and CEO of 300X Ignition. She's happily married with 4 champions. That's 3 boys and a girl. Wow. She's living here in the UK and working closely with grassroots and large organizations while also raising awareness for autism within the minority ethnic group. Welcome, Mrs. Ibukun. We are so happy to have you here. I am particularly thrilled to hear about your story, about your journey, because I'm also a parent and I'm raising my son who is neurodivergent as well. So thank you for gracing our invites and our community. You're very welcome. So we're going
Thank
to go straight into the questions and answers session, which we have for today. We've got an hour, so between now and 7. And we've got a lot of questions, and I'm sure a lot of our guests here will also have some personal questions for you. So we will try and take it one after the other, perhaps 2, 3 minutes for each question, just so that we can accommodate all the other questions that will come from the community. So the first one will be about you telling us about your experience of receiving your child's diagnosis. How was it for you when you first heard about your child's diagnosis?
Hi, Blessing. Thank you. Thank you, Aniola, for having me. And we were chatting earlier, and it's amazing that we've known each other for close to 3 decades now. I think we were 9 years old when we were in high school then. So it's amazing. Thank you so much, Aniola, for having me here. And yes, my journey, it's an emotional one. So if I cry, it's allowed.
That's fine. Don't
But I'll
worry, we
try to behave
understand.
myself. So it all started in 2019 when my son turned 7. And his teacher realized then that he could read books. However, he couldn't comprehend. So he couldn't reason, and he had to be referred. So the diagnosis was given to him then at age 7. And our journey was through the pandemic as well, because if you remember then, 2020, the pandemic started. So that made the challenges even worse for us because we were isolated, we were home with no support of any kind. And when he turned 10, we realized that this boy was going to transition into high school. And then in 2022, we approached his teachers in this primary school and asked for EHCP for him. However, we were declined because we were actually told that he was clever academically and he wouldn't reach the threshold. So I cried. My husband was there in the meeting. And I thought, you know what, Ibukun, crying wouldn't solve your problem. You better wake up and do something to help this child. So we decided to, form this foundation. We didn't know then that it was needed and in demand. So we started the foundation for him to raise awareness for autism. And in the first session, we had over 70 people turn up. And we thought, wow, this is well needed. And the one thing we're grateful for was the fact that even when he was diagnosed and we're given the diagnosis letter, even though we were in denial, we actually received that letter because that letter helped him with transitioning into high school, which I believe we'll be discussing later. So the journey still continues. It's been a very challenging one. However, we are here, and I'm grateful I'm grateful for that.
Thank you very much. So you did mention about how the later helped you and with the transition into high school. Um, were there any sort of tips or anything that you did in particular that you would want to share to help other parents that are trying to navigate between educational settings in terms of perhaps mainstream schools or specialist schools? And with regards to your son, was he like a mainstream school or specialist school, and how did you end up with that transition for him?
Yes. So first of all, I'll say to everybody in this journey that follow through the process,
Mm.
because obviously we're from different backgrounds, we're from different uh, perspective of life. However, in my situation, I never knew what autism was. I never knew what neurodivergence was. I it was my first child, so it was hard. And my husband and I, being Christians, were rebuking and binding the situation that was obvious. So I'll say to every person listening and those that will listen after that, please, as much as it's new to us, let's not be in denial just for the child's sake. And we need to accept it and look for the right support for the child. And regarding mainstream schools, um, I think that is a very big challenge for those facing, neurodivergent children transitioning, whether in primary school level or in high school level. But what I'll say to everyone is, if you know your child, if your child needs that special attention, please ask and seek the right support for that child. In my case, we were in a mainstream school. He was surviving and thriving academically. However, socially, he was challenged. So he was doing well in his subjects, and that's why even when we asked for the EHCP, we were declined because we were told he wouldn't reach the threshold for the application. However, some children may not even need the diagnosis to get an EHCP. So I've actually come across such situations. And sometimes, because when we received the diagnosis, we told the doctor not to inform the school because we didn't want the child to be labeled.
Mhm.
We didn't want the child to be segregated from his peer, and we didn't want him to be on a one-to-one with, there are certain tables set aside in the classroom or outside the classroom for such children. We didn't want that for our son. However, please, if that is needed, this teaches the SEN team, the SENCO, they are actually trained to give our children the best education. So even though sometimes we think as parents, or we most of the times know best for our child, but we need to allow, these professionals to support the child where necessary. It's very important in the journey.
Thank you, sis. Thank you very much. So, apart from the professionals' involvement with your child, how did you and your family, you and your husband, how did you prepare your child emotionally and practically for that transition into secondary school?
So let me tell you truthfully, it was hard. It was difficult. And why I said so is because I mentioned earlier, is our first son, and we were so how do I say it now? We're very ignorant of what he needed at that point. And also it took over a year, and we're still waiting right now for him to be referred to because then when he was diagnosed in 2019, the next step was for us to meet other parents that were going through this, and the doctor made that referral. However, it's not happened till now, but we made it happen because we thought we we were waiting, but sometimes you need to wait actively. So for instance, we've met with his teachers, and his teachers said no to each EHCP, right? We didn't leave it there. We took it to the next level, and we met a team called Sendias. Is SENDIASS. So these professionals actually gave us an insight regarding DLA that he needed, even without the EHCP, because sometimes we are misinformed and we think without EHCP, we can't get certain support. But I want to let you know that if a door is closed, another one opens up, and you need to walk through it confidently. And that's helped us through this journey.
Thank you very much, sis. That's really profound because a lot of children are getting DLA even without EHCP, even without being diagnosed. So please, if you're a parent here, speak up and act and seek for help if you need to.
Yeah.
And then following on from that, in terms of the social skills, but you said he was really good academically, but in terms of social skills, which is what we know a lot of our children struggle with that. So how did he manage when he got into secondary school in terms of friendship, navigating the adolescent stage? How did you support him, and how is he doing now? Or were there any support from professionals in school, or how did you navigate that stage? Because some of us are still in it.
That's a very practical question, isn't it? So we say we have faith, but the doing, the action is very
Yeah.
important. So, like I mentioned earlier, in 2022, when he turned 10, just before he transitioned into high school, we set up this foundation that we didn't know that will thrive actually. And from that foundation, we actually it's a setting where we involve friends, siblings, parents, most importantly. And I say parents most importantly because as an African parent, I know that we sometimes work 9 to 5, and it's hard to actually find time for that child. It's not our fault. We need to put food on the table. So, and in this setting, we make sure that the children are kind of in charge. So they tell us what they want to do. And when they tell us what they would like to do, we actually do our best to provide these resources for them. So I realized in the case of my son, he was highly competitive. So for instance, we were preparing him for the 11 plus examinations. At home, he would spend 3 hours on a particular page. However, with his other mates and, in the group, he spends 30 minutes finishing 45 questions. So, these children are very competitive and they have their major interests. So it's difficult when they are isolated. You wouldn't find this interest when they're isolated, but in a group, because of the competitive spirit they have, they thrive more.
Yeah.
So that really helped him to place him in a place where he was able to sit for the 11 plus examinations, and he passed. So, and he's in one of the best grammar schools now. So immediately we knew he passed and he's a school that he loved to be. We immediately, plugged into the Senko system because obviously this is a group of people that are there to help the child thrive. So sometimes we feel like, oh, because they're in high school, they are more independent now, and we wouldn't have relationships with them. But I think for our children, because as you know, these ones are they're especially unique. or should I say they are uniquely special, whichever way we can put it. So we need to make sure that we are 100%, if not 100%, 120% involved in every step of their education. And the Senko team in primary school said no to EHCP. Guess what? In secondary school, they are already applying for him. So if you don't connect with these professionals, they wouldn't help you. But connecting with them has helped us to, help him to grow. And he's in year 9 now, surprisingly. So
Wow, amazing, amazing. So it's actually really key to work with the professionals to support the child, as well as working with the community that you built around for him as well. So I think that's what I'm getting from what you're saying. Thank you very
absolutely,
much.
absolutely. Because I mean, there's so much we know, uh, um, and there's actually, I wouldn't say that, because we are professionals in looking after them at home, believe me.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the school system, there are certain things we're not aware of,
Mm.
or let me say there are most things we're not aware of, and these professionals are there to actually put us through. And if they can't help us, they are there to signpost us to the right people to help. So in the journey, we've actually worked with educational psychologists. We've worked with also other organizations that are actually helping and supporting children that are neurodivergent, which is very, very good. So, like my mom will say, a tree cannot make a forest. It's got to be, loads of beautiful trees come together to help that child grow.
Thank you. That's good. We all need, I think there's something they say like collective efforts. So the efforts of
Exactly.
everyone, like Tesco will say every little helps. So
Every little
whatever,
helps.
wherever you can tap any knowledge or any strategy, just make do with that, while we're raising our child. That's good. Thank you very
Absolutely.
much, sis. It
Yeah.
sounds like a lot of advocacy. You've done a lot of advocating for your child. So the next question is around advocacy. How have your experience kind of shaped you over the years in terms of advocating for your child? What would you say you've done specially, or how have you advocated for him over the years? And, because I know that that's quite key for us parents raising our
Yes.
children, that we need to keep speaking up for them. How have your own experience been with professionals?
I think personally, I am so passionate about this, even though I didn't know what it was like to
Mm,
to raise a child who is special.
mm,
I'm full of compassion for children, and also to see them thrive.
mm,
So so that has actually helped me to come out of my comfort zone, because obviously it's easier to stay in one's comfort zone and to think things will get better, things will get better. But coming out of my comfort zone into the community. So I don't only think about me, I don't only think about my son. As a parent governor in a school, I think about the children, you know, other children that are going through the same issue or even worse situations. You know, when people tell me their stories, we cry together. You've got to put yourself in other people's shoes to actually understand what they're feeling, and that's where the empathy comes in. So it's especially when it comes to our Black Africans, where we can be negligent in this situation at times, and it takes God's grace to help that child to actually fulfill his maximum potential. And that's what I see a prime minister. I see a counselor. I see, someone who will make the world a better place. So why would I isolate that child? Why would I be in denial? Why would I, you know, keep that child in the house when that child can actually go out and be all they can be in the community? So that's how I view this. And from my experience, my son was in the production in year 8 last session last year in their school, and he won the music award. So, you know, I just want to give everybody listening hope. We cry, it's okay. And it's okay not to be okay. Because, I mean, there are situations where sometimes I say to my son, say, devil, you're a liar. And he goes, devil, you're a liar. So, I mean, I'm not trying to be religious here, but I'm just saying that whatever works, make it work and keep doing it, because these children, they love routine. If I'm being honest, when my child goes out of his normal routine, he's angry, he's unhappy. But we are there as the examples, as the role model to let them know, because I've got to see myself, okay, what if I'm that child? What if, I'm in that situation? So with patience, endurance, and with lots of love, we can reach our goals.
Thank you very much. That's brilliant. Thank you. You started sounding like more like a confidence coach, giving us confidence to keep advocating for our children. Thank you. That's good. I was just wondering as you were speaking, were there any gaps or because I know you mentioned that you couldn't get EHCP when he was still in primary school. But apart from that, were there any other gaps, after you got the diagnosis? And is there any sort of support that you wished you had earlier? Would you have made any difference or any huge change in the life of your son currently?
Absolutely. I think for us, and when I say us, that's myself and my husband. I think if we had accepted that diagnosis earlier, we would have got that EHCP earlier. Also, if we had also, because we stayed in a mainstream school,
Mm.
and the reason why we did that was because he had siblings. I was the only one in Manchester here. My husband was working away. You can imagine if we were, juggling between two schools with the siblings, that would have been quite hectic for me then. And I think, basically, if we had accepted that diagnosis, I'm sure things would have shifted. And the fact that we told the doctor not to tell his school, that was another gap I think we should have breached earlier. That communication is past. So you can imagine we were so, like I said, we were really ignorant and we were scared. We were scared of the unknown. We were not sure what will happen to our son. But I'm confident now, and I'm happy to say to everyone that the specialist schools are safer for the children, and they're very inclusive as well. And you can imagine a classroom of 30 children with one special child. That child wouldn't thrive as much as he would have thrived in a smaller environment. I mean, a smaller classroom. So it's a gap that but I'm grateful, honestly. I'm grateful for the point where we are. And I believe that anybody who is listening right now needs to, close that gap now. Please do it as early as you can, because believe me, the time we lose, we can't gain. But money, if we lose money now, we can obviously gain later. But if we lose time, we can't gain. That time can't come back. So please make sure that you ask the right questions, you seek the right support in your local community, and take the right steps, the right actions.
Thank you very much. And another thing I was going to add is that the diagnosis on itself, it doesn't actually define who the children become. It's not stuck on their forehead. It's not part of who they are. I mean, for those of us here that actually believe in something, different or something strong, there is the truth about the child that is still there, and that's not disputable at all. So the diagnosis is just a thing that is just very separate from our child. So that shouldn't actually stop us from receiving the support. Because I myself as well, I was ignorant at the beginning because I thought, okay, what is this? That's not my child. I don't want any label. But actually, there is a lot of support and a lot of help if you come to terms with it and just say, okay, this is it. But that doesn't define my child. My child is still going to live to fulfill his full potential. He's still going to achieve everything that he's been created to achieve. So I think it's a good way for us to look at it from that angle rather than dwelling on the diagnosis or on the name that the doctors have called. So thank you very much for sharing. The other question will be around your community because you've referred to it a number of times since you've been speaking, and I'm so looking forward to hearing about your community. So, if you don't mind, would you tell us about the activities you do? How do you do them? And I mean, you are thriving, you're breaking ceilings and achieving a lot. So, please share with us so we can learn from you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Aniela, for giving me this opportunity. I shouldn't be doing this here. I feel so humbled and privileged. So we are called 300X Ignition, and we're 3 years old now. And what do? We actually focus on after school activities for the children, homework club, and we use activities like Lego bricks because it helps with their creativity. We use chess, and we also help with their English, math, science, French, subjects that children are interested in. And we do music as well. And the children, they love it. They keep asking their parents, when are we going to the library? Because we use Basic Library in Manchester and also Asda Community Space. And the children are always excited to go in there to the space because they believe when it's like a fun classroom for them. So they thrive in there in the space, and they learn a lot as well while having fun. And, to God be the glory, we've had children who are now in grammar schools, even though they have diagnoses. We have children who are actually also in very outstanding colleges as well. And they are now coming back to volunteer in the community. So they actually help the younger ones. So I call them trailblazers. They actually come and help the young ones with their homework. They help them with their reading, with music, with even building like a vision board for themselves, which, and we eat. We have a lot of, African cultural food, and the children also get into concerts. They get into musical concerts and also BBC shows, and also they've also been on trips. They've been to Gulliver's World and Chester Zoo. We have over 80 people come on that trip, and it was amazing to see that this community has grown from grassroots to actually connecting and partnering with different organizations as well. Like ASDA Foundations, we partner with the North Manchester Inclusion Partnership here in Manchester. And it's been a journey, but the children are our focus, just helping them to thrive beyond surviving with whatever they're going through. And what we do is we ensure that the siblings are involved, friends are involved, parents are also involved. So um, you need to come and visit us. Hey, come and see for yourself. Arts
Wow.
and crafts, yes. So we do a lot of activities with them.
Wow, 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 wow. Sounds like you're doing a lot. And all these have just been within the last 3 years that you've done this. Wow, wow. Sounds
Yeah.
really impressive. How have your experience been in terms of partnering with organizations, especially because, I mean, majority of us here, we have the same color of skin. So how have you been able to dive into collaborating with other organizations involving, Caucasians and other people? How did you navigate that wall to be able to, dive into? Because it sounds like you're doing a lot, and I know that you've collaborated with other people to do this. So how was that experience for you, and what advice will you give to people that are trying to navigate into larger organizations in terms of collaborating?
First of all, I'll say be yourself and don't overblow your trumpet. Let the work speak for you. And for us, word of mouth has been very powerful in the sense that people recommend us to people, organizations recommend us to organizations. So, for instance, recently we got involved in a building for, I mean, Manchester. I do MC as well. So when I go on these duties and people ask about 300X ignition, I don't say much. People actually say things about 300X ignition, and I'm being humbled. Like literally, it's good to stay focused on who you are and what you are passionate about, because when there is when there's two of you, there'll be competition, isn't it? But when there's one of you, what will happen? You're unique in that setting, and nobody can actually kind of do better at what you do, even though people will see your works and kind of want to copy, if I can use that word. But I don't have, we in 300X ignition, we have Asians, we have Ethiopians, we have Chinese, we have Nigerians. I'm a Nigerian. So we like, for instance, if and I didn't tell Eniola to invite me on here. I don't know what she saw. I'm here to ask her, but it's I think passion first of all. And I say to the children, be you till full. Meaning that if beautiful, just be yourself till full. You don't need to seek approval from anybody to be who you are called to be. And the works will speak for you. And for instance, when it comes to autism, I've learned that when you know one child with autism, you only know that child with autism. There's not two of them. So if you only know one that child, how would you you have to keep learning because you can't compare one child with another child. It's not possible. So 300X ignition has been partnering with larger organizations because we are unique. And we wouldn't say we offer you the world. No, we wouldn't say we are who we are not. So when they come into our organizations, they see us and they love it because the children are being creative and they're having fun at the same time, as well as learning. So learning is key for us. Like myself and Eniola was saying earlier on, we in this journey, we unlearn and we learn. So there are some things that we need to unlearn, like from where we are coming from, safeguarding. I don't know, I've never been on safeguarding training until I started, working with closely with these children. So working closely, except maybe at work, because I also have another work I do. However, safeguarding is something that's opened our mindset, has opened us to knowing that this system that we are, it works if you work it. But if you don't work it, it wouldn't work for you. And doors will open. So for us, when doors open, listen, we grab it with open hands. For instance, when Eniola sent me to be here today, I said to her, I'm just privileged to be here, even though I've got a tight schedule, but I'm so honored and privileged. So we grab it with open hands. We don't say no to opportunities. So we receive it and we run with it, asking the right questions. And even Manchester City Council, they've been so helpful. They've been funding the children's sessions. And I think if you're not in Manchester, if you're outside Manchester, you need to first of all know who your counselor is, because that's very helpful as well. Knowing who your counselor is, knowing the MP is very important as well. And just sometimes invite them for the events you have. Let them see what you do. On Friday, I was an MC for another organization, and the mayor of Manchester was there. The Lord Mayor was there. So that's another way where we connect with, people. So it's very important to know that that connection is key. I know. I think we've dwelt too much on that,
That's
isn't
fine.
it?
Thank you very much, sis. Thank you. I think we will start taking questions now. So if anyone has got a question, please feel free to put it in the chat or just unmute and speak, so that Ibuku can answer. Okay, we've got a hand raised. Annie, go on.
Thank you so much, Ibukun. Thank you. Yeah, very
Okay.
inspirational. I just wanted to bring us back to practicality because we have a lot of parents on the call. For some of the questions, I just want us to kind of come back to them so that you can give us practical things that you do for your own child so that people can learn from it. So Blessing asked a question about um, talking about how you practically helped your child in moving to the next class from primary school to secondary school. So what were the things that you probably taught him or helped him? How did you do that to help build his independence and his confidence? So some of the things you do at home, some of those tips that you know worked for you, because it might be useful for some of us as well. So that's my first question.
Thank you, Eniola, for that question. And like I said, it's a journey. So the major thing I want us to start to do as parents is teaching them independence, because, for instance, in primary school, you are there helping and helping and helping. But when they're in high school, they have to help themselves a lot in building independence. For instance, little things like packing their lunch the night before they go to bed is gone a long way for me. Telling my son to make sure he gets his bag ready, he gets his uniform ready, he gets his uh, timetable, because those things can actually bring them back in school. So the timetable, just constant reminders, and sticking with routine consistently, while building their independence is very, very key in this transition. And I hope we can let go, because most of the times we're actually right there beside them, still telling them or still helping them to do these things. But we need to help them to grow into, being independent. Is very important, mentally, emotionally, even socially, because being a teenager, my son is 13 now. There are things that are changing. He's transforming daily. So, encouraging him and, just assuring and reassuring him is actually very good for him. So for the younger ones, I think if we can start early, teaching them gradually, because they do these things in school, whether we like it or not. They tidy up toys in school as early as reception age. They tidy up toys in school. They actually pack up their books after doing their work. So when they finish eating, cleaning up their plates, they can do it. Believe me, it helps them to grow mentally as well.
Okay, thank you for that. The second question I wanted to ask, it looks like you're one of the privileged people that has had a lot of good experiences with professionals, but that is not the case for many families, because we have families that are not getting the right support from school. Either the teachers are not cooperating with them, and as you would expect, what kind of advice will you give people that are in that kind of situation? They want to trust the professionals, but the professionals are not pulling their weight. Let me just put it like that. How can we manage that dynamics, even though we know they are useful to us, but they are appearing not to show that empathy? So what advice will you give to we parents in that situation?
Thank you, Eniola. I went through it, believe me, even as a parent governor. And at that time, David was a school counselor in a school. That's my son. So I'll say don't give up, because not every professional, may understand the journey for us. So if for instance, in primary school, his EHCP was declined, Ibukun should have just kept quiet and not, presented it in high school. But I didn't keep quiet. I went into the high school, I spoke with the Senko, and I said to them the same thing I presented in primary school. And they've started the application for David. And the same thing anywhere. Don't keep quiet. I think persistence is key in here. And also, we as parents need to do our research, because for our children, not one size fits all. So if we can just make sure that we try in this busy time we have, go online, research for your child. It goes a long way as well. Okay? And back it up with prayers, because I believe in all things, prayer is the master key. It's helped me a lot. So let's not give up, and let's be persistent. Keep professionals are there to support. But believe me, even professionals are under pressure these days. So we need to make sure that we just keep asking and never giving up, please. Does that help at all?
Oh, yes, it does. Yeah, I'm just trying to also bring, because like you mentioned, this is a spectrum, for in the case of autism, because neurodivergence is bigger than autism. In a situation where the children are younger and they have more needs, because because you have an after school club, it kind of provides a cover of actually providing support for your child. But some people don't have that kind of system where in which they're able to access after school club. So what can they do to ensure that they are still able to support their children pending the time? And some of our children are a bit younger than yours. So I don't know if you can take your mind back as much as you can. Some of the things you did when your child was younger, especially in the context of making friends, being able to do their homework. And we also have children that are not able to, that are not speaking at the moment. So just try to, I would imagine that you have those experiences from your own community as well. What are people doing so that we can also learn in practical terms, because you have an after school club, so you're able to have that one-on-one teaching of your children. What of those that don't have? What can they begin to do in their own homes?
Very good question. So apart from in their homes, Eniola, and everybody listening, I used to live in London, and we moved to Manchester in 2016. So when I was in London with the younger children, in fact, maybe I should tell you a bit of my story. It didn't actually start in 2019. when David turned 7. When David was 1, we noticed he wasn't talking, and we took him to a speech therapist. And the speech therapist then, you can imagine, this was in 2013. I remember very well in London. The speech therapist told us that my son was okay, because we knew what was happening at home. Because, for instance, you call this child, he wouldn't answer, but his youngest brother then would turn, because then we had another child after him, just like a year or about 2 years in between them. But when Michael, my second son, was a baby, Michael will answer, David wouldn't answer. So it was obvious that there was something wrong. So we took him to the speech therapist, and we had to book appointment and all of that. So it took energy to take this child. And then the speech therapist tells me nothing is wrong with my child. But guess what? I didn't give up. We used to take them to this group called Stay and Play. And we actually started that as well in Manchester in 300X Ignition, because for children that are young and are 4 years and not in school yet, and the parents are saying this child is old enough to be in school, but the system is not accepting them because they can't talk and they can't do things that their peer or their age group can do. So these children come, and we actually have toys, books for them. I'll say to such parents, please look for these stay and plays in your areas. There used to be sure starts. Sure starts in most of the sure starts in Manchester are closing down now for some reason. However, most sure starts are also transitioning into community spaces where, I remember then when my children were younger, I used to take them to baby massage. I think starting early is a very good one, because through this baby massage, the touch, the songs we sang then, it helps with eye contact for these babies. And that's the stage of development as well that we need to help our children with. So, if they're as young as babies, baby massages are good. In our communities, we'll have stay and plays. And then sometimes they have toddler groups. But it takes grace, because, like I said, if we are working 9 to 5, we may not have the time to take these children. So, but in the times where we're on holiday, or if we have, I used to have an au pair then. I don't know now whether au pairs are still functioning. However, if you have people who can help to even take this child to such, play groups, it will go a long way, for this child. And also parks, taking them to the park is free. It's a free space. We have no excuse in this. In Nigeria, they will pay to take children to the park, I believe. However, here, there are parks that are free outdoor spaces for the children to thrive. Then keying them into sessions like swimming sessions. I remember then during the pandemic, I was watching a cartoon, and the cartoon said neurodivergent children are good in golf. So, just then I was cleaning the house and I thought, oh, golf. I signed David up for golf. And he was just so good that his coach was like, wow, they calculate, they want to be challenged, even though they are facing challenges. These children, they are the way they are built may look challenging or feel challenging to us, but they are actually very clever. They are very how do I put it now? They are very rich in mindfulness. You just need to explore. That's what I'll say. Explore different things for the children. And even if you're part of maybe communities like a church, mosque are doing different things, churches are doing different things for the communities. Let's get involved as parents. Let's not isolate the children. I know sometimes we feel like, oh, I don't want them to be staring at my children. I don't want my children to be labeled. But please, let's not be discouraged. Let's help them, because like I said earlier on, it's going to help improve their mental well-being. And I learned earlier in one of my trainings that I attended that we've got three different types of intelligence. We have the brain, we have the heart, and the gut. Please, as parents, if our brain is not uh, um, giving us the right choices and decisions for these children, let's listen to our hearts. And if the heart is not even raising enough awareness, this gut can never fail us. So let's key them into things that are healthy for them and will help them to thrive. Does that help at all?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much. I think we're beginning to tease it out of you now. The last one has to do with friendships, because I know you mentioned about social skills being one of your son's areas that you're working on. I can tell from your response that the after school club activities is helping in that,
Yeah.
isn't it? What
Yeah.
other tips can you give to children that are in that should I say category, that are still that have challenges making friends, that have challenges, at mixing in a social way with other people? What do you think can help, apart from the after school activities and all those things? What other tips can you share that parents can explore, bearing in mind that we have some are young, some are in primary school, and some are also approaching secondary school? Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yes, that's a very good question. I think we need to start within, actually, as a family. Within the family, we need to start connecting them, because there's this big issue that we had in my family. It was the siblings rival, the siblings fight, the siblings, because obviously they need to learn to relate with one another. First of all, in the house, they say charity begins at home, isn't it? So we need to start within the family. How are the parents communicating with this child? How are they relating with this child? Number one. Then number two, outside families, the external families. Are you connected with them as well? Like aunties, uncles, the cousins? Let's play games with them. Scrabble is getting out of fashion. Chess is getting out of fashion. Let's get those board games back. Let them learn to take turns. Let them learn to, play with things within the family, first of all. And what has helped me in my house is we learned early to actually help them to key into clubs in school as well. So clubs in school, they need to get involved in school. They need to music, for instance, when in their primary school, they don't join the band until they're in year 4. So when they got to year 4, even before they got to year 4, I was telling them at home, make sure you are the first to ask your teacher, because these children, they know, they listen, they hear. They may not respond to you, but they hear, they understand. So make sure you ask your teacher, to join the band, to join the club. And persistence, they may forget today, they may forget tomorrow, but you have to keep pressing. Don't give up. Then also, I've said, take them on holidays, take them on trips, because holidays are some are very expensive, I understand, but it's good for us to help them to explore the world around them, explore the outside world as well, safely. I know it may be challenging. However, there are people in place, to help our children. We need to make sure that we also help them to, meet other people outside our families. So also, another thing that can help us to help these children is to learn with them, because most of the times we just leave them to do their work. Let's get into the system ourselves. We need to learn the system with them. We need to know, even if the professionals are not helping, we need to know that we, first of all, as parents, we are the professionals for these children and we know them better. So I hope this will actually gear us up to make sure that we get something that will help these children to thrive, in the sense that there's no excuse at all. There's no excuse for them not to thrive, honestly. If the system does not work, we need to work the system inside out to make sure that we at least find something that they are interested in and we run with it. So if it's music, get a music teacher for them. My husband got a music teacher for my son David when he was as young as 8 years old, from home. That teacher is in Nigeria. He's teaching him virtually. And today he can play the piano. He's got autism. He can play the piano. He can play the keyboard. And when he's not in his band in school, when he's not there, they say there's a difference, because his music teacher told me that he's the best vocalist. So it's in them. We just need to help them to bring it out. So even if it's I remember then, even during pandemic, QMon was a good one as well. I don't know if we know QMon. In fact, later I realized that his QMon teacher, who is now our chair in 300X Ignition, got diagnosed with autism as an adult. So yes, that's it. QMon, thank you, Blessed. So he got diagnosed even 2 years before he got married. Can you believe that? And he was with us on last week, Thursday, at our session, playing chess with these children. So there's no excuse at all. Get them into things that will engage them and will help them to grow and develop mentally, as great people in the community. I know we can do it. Please, can we just say we can do it? Can we type that in the comments and say we can do it? Yes, we can. There's no excuse, please. Yes, we can do it. Thank you, King Temi. Yes,
Thank you very much. Yes, we can all do it. Yeah, we can do it. Thank you. You've shared so much tips with us here. I'm really grateful for this time. It's been really, really educational. Thank you very much, Ibukun, for your words. Does anyone else have any other question before we round up?
Yes, I have a question.
Good.
My boy is still in line for his diagnosis. To me, I think it's taking ages. He missed the one at 4. He was to be diagnosed at 4. I learned the consultant went off. That was how he missed it. He's 7 now. He's yet to be diagnosed. Though I learned he attends a mainstream school. Presently, they've just created a classroom for those that need some help. If everything was fine, you should have been in year 3. But it's like this present class that they've just created. You've got children in reception, year 6, all classes in that same classroom. So it's like, I do think that, is it just what they teach in reception, they teach them? How is he going to grow in that class? So I'm thinking, should we take him off the school or just leave him there? On the other side, I'm a bit scared of specialist school. Because I once nursed a patient. The mom was telling me when the boy went to a specialist school, he deteriorated. So that alone pissed me off from specialist school. So I don't know if you have 1 or 2 things to tell me about that.
Thank you so much for that, Adenike. Am I right? Is that Adenike? Yeah. Thank you. I must say, well done, Mommy, because for you to be aware of that situation, it means you're into your child's growth and development. And I won't be in the place to help you to make that choice. However, I'll say first of all, speak to his teacher. So because you can actually see the plan for your child's growth and development in his class.
Sorry for interrupting. I've spoken with a teacher, She told me, well, that the year 3 teacher will be coming in to teach him. But I'm not still happy with that, because when the book he normally comes up with is the book he used in year 1, the reading book. So I felt he should have set up, but they told me the year 3 teachers to go into that same class. So
So
I don't know.
Does your child have an EHCP?
Yes, he has one in place.
So that means he has a one-to-one educational system in his classroom. Is that correct?
Sure, when he was in year 1, year 2, he has, but now they've created a classroom for them. So
Okay.
it's like, I think that class, I think maybe 8 or 10 children in that class. So I don't think if he still has one-to-one, but it's
Okay.
got an EHCP in place.
I would like you to please check if he's got that one-to-one, because it's very important. For instance, I have seen where a child graduated from year 6 in a school and she was still in a reception level. So
Really?
really, yes. So she graduated with her classmates. However, her level of, our academic level was still in the reception level. So why I mention that is because most parents think when the child goes from one class to another class, automatically, like the system we were used to in Africa, that child, is in the right class. But in this system, these children, they all go, they wouldn't tell them to repeat a class. However,
No.
they will move from class to class, but the certain professionals or their teachers know what level they're in. That's why I always go to their school. I make sure I'm part of the parents meeting, the parent council, the evening meetings. I make that my priorities. So I make sure that I'm in the governing body. Although it's not everybody that not everybody can be in the governing body, I understand. However, we must always at the end of the class ask the teacher, because they will tell you what level your child is in. Ask them how your child did today in class, what table, because apparently they have, even in a classroom, they have different colored tables, and those colors mean one thing or the other
Yeah.
regarding the child's academic level. So I'm so glad that you actually are aware of this, but I would like you to please check with the class teacher. What academic plan does that child have? It's your duty and your responsibility. I wouldn't say you're right, because I've learned that in the UK, parents don't have rights over the children.
Yeah.
However, you are responsible for that child, and you need to know what level that child is academically. And the reason why you want to know is because this child has EHCP in place. You want to know what strategies are in place for him or her to go to the next class, and to even go in the next class with very good results. Does that make sense?
It
Yeah.
does. Yeah.
Permit
And
me to add something, Ibukun.
yes,
Sorry, Nike. My name is Eniola. I'm the founder of the Thriving Beyond the Label community. Let me just give a bit of context as to why your child is being moved. Nowadays, a lot of mainstream schools, because of the challenges with funding, the one-on-one system, they are trying to eliminate it. They are trying to
Okay.
substitute the one-on-one system with something called a hub. So the hub is not structured according to age groups, it's according to interests. So that's why it feels like in that hub, you have people that are in lower class, you have people that are in other class, because they have seen that the one-on-one system is not sustainable. That is the reason why it's like that. So what you need to do, like Ibukun has said, the first thing you need to do, especially since they have withdrawn that one-on-one, despite his EHCP, is to have a meeting with your Senko, the
Okay.
Senko of your school. Have a meeting. Insist that you must have a meeting. Call that meeting. You want to know, the agenda is you want to know how his CHCP targets are going to be met now that the one-on-one has been withdrawn.
Okay.
That's all you want to know. So in that meeting, then you now start to communicate your challenges. So now that your child is now in this mixed group, how is he going to be able to achieve these targets? Because the AHCP is already detailed in terms of the targets that he's supposed to meet each year. So they should now go through it one. If they don't meet with you, then if they are delaying in the meeting, in calling a meeting, between that meeting will be between his class teacher. Ideally it should be with the previous one-on-one. If the one-on-one is still in that school, it should also, because that one has the history. So that meeting is supposed to be between you, the Senko, and his previous one-on-one and his teacher. If they are stalling on that meeting, then get the caseworker of your EHCP, escalate it to the caseworker of your EHCP. If you don't have their contact already, go through your local authority to get their contact. Then once you get that, tell them this is your challenge, that you don't feel like your child is because of the change of this system from one-on-one to the hub style, you have some concerns. So your caseworker will be able to facilitate that. Then finally, before I think Jumoke has her hand, in the context of special school, I'm not going to go into my own story because each child is different. You have to ask yourself, just like Ibukun has also said, do you really think that your child can continue to cope in mainstream? Nobody can make that decision for you. But generally, I would suggest you do that evaluation yourself and decide. But I assure you that special schools, they're all different from each other. So do your research and see which one will fit your child, if that is your decision. But if your child remains in mainstream school, knowing that the one-on-one is withdrawn, you have to do a lot more work, because it's not automatic also to get a special place, especially if the child does not have any behavioral challenges. So you have to manage the dynamics based on your child's needs, based on what the school is able to offer, and based on how your school is also responding. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you so much.
Somebody raised their hand before. Jumoke raised their hand before I
Yeah,
interjected.
good
Sorry.
evening. Thank you everyone for the different discussions that has been going on. But I just wanted to mention, according to Ibukun's comments, that what if the child has learning disability? Because she raised a valid point about someone graduating from year 6 and has a reception ability or capability, whichever way we really want to put it. What if that child has learning disability?
Hello, Jumoke. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Thank
Sorry
you
for
for
the
your
background
question.
noise.
Thank you so much for that question. A child with a learning disability, are you talking for your child or for another child, please? Is that your child in the question, Jumoke?
Apologies. Yes. I'll say in this instance, it's my child, because I know currently is in his teens, and is 13, is going to be 14. Yes. But the truth there is, he has an EHCP in place, and I know I've been to the school several times. We've discussed this over and over again, but I can see that he already has a diagnosis of having learning disability. He has a autism diagnosis, and again he has ADHD, so you can see it's like a full plate. But I must be honest with you, God is faithful. He's doing well, but however, he's got learning disability. We're stretching him, because as you rightly said, we need to get their abilities out so that they can try. But he has that learning disability, and we can see it is obvious.
Right, Jumoke, thank you for being very vulnerable and for being transparent. And I must say, well done, mommy, because obviously, I also have a child who is 13, and with the autism diagnosis. So I understand what you're feeling. If not everything, I have that empathy in me. So what I'll say is, for your child, is he in a mainstream or in a specialist school?
He's in a specialist school. He wasn't able to thrive in a mainstream school. He's in a specialist school, and he's got
Well
one
done,
children.
mommy. Well done. Well done. I think you're doing the right thing. Maybe you want to teach me now. I think you're on track, honestly. And it takes courage, absolute courage, to take bold steps like that. I will really clap for you. Please, can we clap for Jumoke, because she has answered her own question herself, and I think she's doing great if we all agree, and we're so proud of you. So I'll say, take it one step at a time. Don't push yourself too hard. Give yourself a hug. Honestly, we forget to give ourselves a hug. You know, we pamper yourself. Just make sure that you well mentally. And sometimes my son will say to me, "Mommy, don't worry." I'm like, "You say not to worry." But sometimes we worry more than we pray, and we're supposed to be doing otherwise. Pray instead of worrying, and look after yourself as well. Because if you are well, believe me, Jumoke, that child will continue to thrive, and he will continue to be well, no matter what situation or what environment he finds himself. So, can I ask, are you well, Jumoke? How are you doing? As in, truly, how are you feeling?
Sorry, it took me a while to unmute myself. Honestly,
Um,
I'm very well, and I'm really grateful to God. I've got three of them. I just dropped one of them in uni. She had three A stars, and she's starting uni already. But Demi is unique, and that there are three of them, but three of them are different. I can't compare them, but I'm well in myself. But at times, myself may want to compare, but immediately I snap out of it and I say, you know what? Three of them have their own journey. Demi, this is his own uniqueness. And I just, you know what? I try to get the best out of him, but most especially, I've come to terms to the fact that God's purpose for Demi will be done, and the girls. So really, I'm well, but in my human flesh, it comes around at times, and I'm like, where did I get it? But I've passed that stage. I've overcome those denial period, and I'm just a voice for him. According to, I'm a great fan of the Word of God, but I know we have a mixed platform here. I believe God has kept us this far, and is still taking Damien to new dimensions. So he may be nonverbal, he may not be at his full capacity, but he is where he is now. But we are not where we used to be. Because before Damien, it's a long story. I'll just keep quiet at
Thank
this
you
time.
very
But
much. Thank you very much, Jumoke. Thank you. Well done, mommy. Okay, we've got another hand.
Sorry, I always want to just to add context. Um, for the lady that was talking about special schools, I think Jumoke sharing her experience confirms what we have to evaluate what works for your child. Ibukun made that statement in the context of the person that was in mainstream school. So she was using the mainstream school criteria to assess how the person was progressing academically. But in the context of special schools, they don't measure them according to such standards. They don't use academic standards, how good you are in maths. They structure the curriculum that your child has access to, which has its positives and its negatives, if I might add, because I actually have one child in mainstream and another child in special. So I can actually give you both context, and they are both on the autism spectrum. The way they structure the curriculum in special schools, in my opinion, it does not challenge the child. except you as a parent ensures that you are putting fire under the teachers. If you feel like your child is not being challenged enough in special school, with a lot of strategy, you can encourage them. But they generally structure your child's activities in special school based on their interests and based on their capabilities. So that's the way it's done in special school. So even a child that has learning disability will still thrive in special school if they are doing their work well by focusing on his interests and the things that he's good at in the way he communicates and everything. But I'm a big advocate of doing things at home, irrespective of what support they are getting in school. At home, you know your child. If it's music that them is good in, push him in music. If it's arts that he's good in, make sure that they are doing that arts. So it's just, you almost have to narrow it down because you know that he has that multiple diagnosis. I hand over to Blessing. I just felt I needed to just share that.
That's fine. Thank you very much, sis. Thank you, Jumoke and Adenike, and well done to every mommy here, everyone, even those that we haven't heard from. You all are doing an amazing job. So well done, and thank you, everyone. I think we've run out of time, so we can't accommodate any more questions. But please feel free to send your questions, privately to Annie or to me, and we can also pass it on to Ibukun if we don't have the answers, and then we will relay it back to you. So please do not be discouraged if you have more questions. I think that brings us to the end of this session. You can also use the above if that helps. Okay, so Annie has sent a link for you to drop your questions if you have or any further information. Okay, so we've got, wow, thank you very much, Annie. Okay, all right, that's fine. So thank you all for joining us today. And thank you very much, Ibuku, for sharing. I will personally get your contacts from Annie because I haven't had the opportunity to ask my own questions, but let's allow mommies to go and make dinners and get ready for school tomorrow. So thank you all.
Thank you for watching. Follow us on all available social media channels.